Welcome to the Deconstructed Woman podcast, a podcast about breaking down barriers between women, exploring and sharing perspectives of each individual woman's experience, and discovering what we have in common and what makes us different. Hosted by Elisa Marie and Joji.
Welcome back. This is Joji interviewing today Lisa Scaragna. She is one of my colleagues from a past life, and we are going to be talking about today the concepts of meditation, mindfulness, and how to better incorporate these ideas into our very busy and difficult scheduling days, including work, personal life, family commitments, activities, hobbies, book clubs, and all the other things that we want to do, but then sometimes don't make time for things that we should do, like meditation and how to clean the clutter out of our mind so we can be more productive and efficient. Just a little bit of history, dear listeners. Lisa and I worked together. I can't believe now it's been about 5 or 6 years ago at one of my former employers. And we were working on an idea with doctors on preventing burnout from the medical profession. And this was a pilot project that one of the physicians had an idea about, and she knows Lisa well. And so she introduced the idea. Lisa and I created sort of a pilot program for one location, and then we implemented that, and that's how we became colleagues. Lisa and I have stayed connected via email, which she will talk about in the future in the next couple minutes. And that way you can find her online and access her workshops, classes, and the ideas that she shares through her website. So, Lisa, welcome to the Deconstructed Women. I'm very excited to have you on. And just a note, Alyssa lost her voice today, and so she's unable to join us. And there will be a part 2 segment for those listeners who want to hear more about parenting and self regulation for improved parenting. That is part 2 that will be coming soon after this session is published. So, back to you, Lisa. Welcome to the Deconstructed Woman. As I mentioned, we are a group of listeners, primarily women, who are interested in looking at different aspects of what makes us unique and what are some of the challenges we face, given all the responsibilities we have in our professional and our personal lives. And over the last year, since we've been doing this podcast, there's been several conversations that have linked up with yoga, meditation, mindfulness. And when I saw your email this year for New Year's, that's what sort of jogged my memory. Like, I should reach out to you and see if you might be interested in helping us sort of fill out this conversation about how valuable these different things are, how easily accessible they are because you take them with you wherever you go, and what a great tool it is that we can inject them in difficult, stressful situations to regain that balance and that orientation we need to put our best self forward. And so, please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of how you got here and what your broad history. Lisa shared her bio with me, but there's a lot of detail to it. And I think it would be best if Lisa talked us through her journey from where she was and how she's arrived today. So, Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us a little bit about your background.
Thanks, Jody, and thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm so excited to be here and talk about this. Um, Mindfulness, meditation, yoga. I'm very passionate about all of it. And I started this, I guess, journey, you could say, um, probably back in 2001. I was looking for sort of some type of, I'll just say exercise but something that was more grounded and more that involved, the mind and the body. And I had done some yoga in college a little bit. I found a book actually on my mother's shelf, Yoga for Americans, and I opened it and did a few different yoga practices in there. And then I think it kind of went to the wayside. And then when I got pregnant, I was doing yoga classes for pregnancy, which was helpful. But then I wanted to be doing something. My kids were probably school age or just starting school. And I wanted something that, like I said, really connected all of those things, the body, the mind, the spirit. And so I started practicing yoga. Um, and then fast forward, I decided I wanted to go deeper in my practice, and I ended up doing yoga teacher training. And then after that, I did an additional yoga teacher training. And with that training, in the training I did get some meditation training as well. And I also experienced it was a life changing event for me, in which my family of origin, my mom had died, and then there was some difficulty with her estate and trust. Anyways, big conflict. I'm sure many people out there have experienced this or know people who have experienced this. And for me, I just went into a deep dive. I was sad by the situation. I was depressed. I was recommended to get on an antidepressant, which I tried, and I wished it would have worked. But you know what? I ended up, instead of taking medication, I did meditation. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do medication. Like I said, if it would have worked for me, I would have. I was also juggling 3 young children. My husband traveled a lot. So wherever I could find it, and this was back when it wasn't online and there wasn't so much available. But anyways, started meditating, found that, and I had other tools too. I wasn't just meditation, that it was helping me kind of slowly climb out of that dark space. And I also was teaching yoga at the time, and then continued to teach. And fast forward, I ended up deciding I wanted to bring meditation out in the world because it had helped me so much. And I had done a certification program through the Calm Monkey group, and that was to become a facilitator. And it was very helpful. Um, that's when I talked to my friend who worked at the healthcare provider that Joji was working with, and from there we started doing stress reduction classes for staff and for doctors and nurses. And I continued from there to keep offering out classes. I did a lot of classes at a yoga studio near me in Downers Grove called Yoga Among Friends. And I did 6-week series on introduction to mindfulness. I did it for many years. I also, I don't do those anymore. I do some other classes through them occasionally, but and then I did a lot of other corporate classes at JP Morgan Chase corporate. I used to do their wellness days with them probably every other month or so. And I've worked with athletes. I've worked with, um, uh, I also do volunteer work with cancer patients once a month at the Wellness House. I've worked with inner city kids. I volunteered with inner city kids to run yoga and meditation programs. So I feel like I've touched on a lot of people, a lot of different areas, and my goal, if you will, has always been to plant the seed wherever I can to reach as many people as I can. And if people take it and go with it, great. If they don't, that's okay too. At some point it might help them, and maybe it's not for them. And then during COVID, a lot of my programs shut down. I started volunteering online just to offer free meditation classes because people myself included, it was a really difficult time, obviously. And now I'm almost strictly all remote. I do some classes locally. I do private classes locally, yoga and meditation, but my group classes are mostly remote because from COVID, I ended up pulling people in that I knew from other states and other areas. So I have people from all over the country that join my classes. So I decided to keep them in this remote space. And I also, along with my yoga training, and then I also received a 2-year certification um, just before the COVID breakout with Tara Brock and Jack Cornfield and it was called MMTCP, Mindfulness Meditation Teacher Certification Program. Um, along with that, I also got training on trauma-informed yoga and trauma-informed mindfulness. I am also certified through a group in Arizona of facilitating and holding women's circles. So I have a monthly women's circle that I hold. I can talk about that more later. And I don't know. I'm probably forgetting something. Currently, I've got a class on radiating self compassion. It's called Meditations from the Heart. Um, right now, I'm very interested in self compassion. I think the world needs uh, to experience more self compassion. I think in order for us to do anything in our lives, we have to come from hopefully the glass almost full to give out. But I think, unfortunately, especially as women and mothers, we usually give out to the world with our glass half full and probably leaking.
Yeah. And I will
um,
say, Lisa, that's probably the topic that we've touched upon so much in our podcast is the dilemma that women face. The fact that we are nurturers, you know, by evolution, probably, and that a lot of the caretaking falls on us just because we are women. And yet, if we want to do any self care, then so many of us are raised to believe that that's selfish. And so, this constant pull between self care and having what we need to give to others without, reducing ourselves to nothing. And then we are not good for anyone. Can you speak a little bit of what your experience has been about that and how the self compassion work that has ignited in you might have come from that, or what you've learned as you've been working in that topic area? Because that is something that is um, very deeply rooted in this conversation that we have on the deconstructed woman.
uh-huh. Yeah, I think self compassion is something that many of us, and myself included, for years, always felt like that was selfish, being selfish. And I also, you know, was a big, unfortunately, a big proponent of kind of beating myself up a lot. That voice inside our head saying, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're not good enough. Oh, you screwed this up." So, when I started studying self compassion, and there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of studies. Kristen Neff and Chris Germer are really the people that are doing a lot of great work in that area. Kristen Neff she's the one who's done all the studies and done so much work. And so what's nice is we can see that it's not just woohoo. It's actually there's things we can do in our lives to help us, and they've been proven to help us. So self compassion, I think, has to be the first thing that we start with before we go even into anything else, because sometimes that inner critic in our heads will beat us up enough that we won't want to step into something that we want to do in our lives. And so for me, self compassion helped me tame that inner critic, helped me step out in the world and feel like I can do this. I do have gifts to offer. Um, Self compassion has helped me self regulate, to remember that I can do something. I can pause and notice, and it's also given me the opportunity to forgive myself. So none of us are perfect, and I think we think we should be perfect. Only I know for myself, I've been a perfectionist, and I'm letting that go. And so self compassion can remind us that we can forgive ourselves. We're doing the best we can, and most of the time, every moment we're doing the best that we can, even if it doesn't look good. Even if we think we did that poorly, that's the best we could do in that moment. Can we give ourselves a break? Can we offer even some kind words, to ourselves, like, something as simple as "I'm doing the best I can," or "This is hard." So it's really helped me be out in the world and be in a place of, I can do this. I do have gifts. I do know enough. Even when I screw up, you know what I mean? I'm still a good person, and like all of, most of us are. So yeah, does that help you? Did that answer your question?
It does. And it made me think about, sort of my journey with meditation and mindfulness as well. In my 30s, I went through, I have always labeled myself as a walking anxiety disorder. My background is mental health. And so that's the way I always saw myself. Like I was always a bundle of nerves and trying to do better, do more in the eyes of my society and my family and everything else. And so basically, you're just raw nerves all the time. That led to many um, anxiety related somatic issues, primarily in my gut. And so I had lots of GI issues. And in the age of 30, I had a pretty significant health issue that led to having a reconstruction in my belly and losing all of my colon because of ulcerative colitis. And so that was really, I think, what was my breaking point to realize that I can't continue this way. When you're 32 years old and your colon is at the 70th percentile for risk of cancer because of ulcerations and things like that, I think it just took my breath away in terms of, wow, I've always known I was an anxious person, but now my body is letting me know that it cannot sustain itself this way. And so during that time off from work, because it was a two-part surgery, it was very extensive, that I had the time and I chose to use that time probably out of survival skill to really start meditation. And I had plenty of time to do it. And so I started doing it. And I think that's also the voice in the head. It's almost like, what is the value of sitting down and being quiet? Like, what is going on? I think that's the first critical voice you have is like, you should be more productive. Sitting around doesn't help you. That's wrong. The second part I think that distracts people is that the monkey mind. You just because you quiet your body and you create a space to meditate doesn't mean that your mind stops working. And so I think there is a time for people to get through some of those rough points where your mind is just jumping from place to place. And I think the more people realize that that is part of the process, right? That is part of learning to quiet yourself and not trying to stop those thoughts from just coming through. And you just sort of watch it move and you just let it go through. And so I think that there are so many parts to help people realize that these are all natural obstacles that you have to face to get to the meaning of meditation. And I will say that I started a consulting company soon after all of that because I realized that part of my anxiety was not having anything of my own. And so I started a consulting company, and the name of my consulting company was actually born out of meditation. And that is what I always go back to if I ever doubt the value of it. It came to me like a lightning strike. It just was beautiful, fully formed, and so powerful that I knew that that was something that came from, you can say the universe, from a higher power, from my intuition, from myself. It was life changing. And at that point, I knew that was the name. I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I figured those out as you go along. And so I've been dabbling with meditation for over 20 years. And I go in and out of it, I think as people do. And a couple of years ago, well before COVID, probably 10 years ago, I got involved with doing more yoga because I do really find yoga as a meditative exercise. And I find myself, it's the easiest for me to focus my thoughts when I'm in the movement and when I'm following something like and so I've tried to do exercise in a gym, and I find that it just makes me more stressed out because now I have to pack my clothes. I have to go somewhere after work, which is going to delay dinner for my family. And so what I realized was I just took that out of the mix, and I've done it online for about 10 years. And then obviously with the rise of COVID, it just has made everything so much more virtually accessible. But I've used the same teacher for 10 years, and I love her. And I really appreciate the fact that these resources are available online and so easy to access through our smart TVs and things like that. And so for me, it has been really, really important. And that critical voice has really gone down, like you've said. I mean, I think the more you reflect on it and realize that it is, all of us have good parts and bad parts. And sometimes, you lean into one way or the other, but there's balance. And most of us are really good people that are just doing, like you said, the best that we can. What have you found in terms of working with the people you have now for, it sounds like probably 15, 20 years. What have you found are some of the ways that people have overcome some of the obstacles to meditation and mindfulness, and have incorporated into their busy lives?
Well, I think you brought up some really good points, like the value of being quiet and the inner critic. And I think working with people, um, what we talk about a lot is that the inner critic is going to be there. It's part of who we are, and it can be there. We just don't want it running the show. Um, it's like the story of, okay, I'm getting in the van and you tell the inner critic, you can get in with me, but you're getting in the back seat because I'm going to be driving. I'm the person that's, got the map here. And so, I work with people a lot on recognizing the inner critic. Um, and, sometimes you can talk to it and let it know it's here. Sometimes you can be kind to it. Sometimes you can ask it to leave. Um, and then the other part of it you mentioned is the monkey mind. Yes, people think that when they sit down to meditate, they're supposed to clear their minds, and that doesn't happen. And if anything, mindfulness is about recognizing what's happening in the moment, without any judgment. So, can we notice those obstacles? Can we notice what the mind is bringing up? And then how do we work with that? Can we breathe with it? Can we allow it to be there? Notice, the felt sense in the body. I think I found that people, between working with the inner critic, getting really in touch with their bodies, these embodied practices like the body scan, and you can do things during the day that help you stay grounded, just noticing your feet into the earth. But really helping people notice and pay attention to their bodies, their breaths, remembering that they have an inner critic and that they don't have to listen to it all the time. I mean, there are some practices that will help with that. And being mindful throughout your day, as often as I think people find, what I've heard from my students is it's the kind of quick tools and tips that have helped them, even if they can't sit and meditate for 20, 30 minutes. But if they can do some little things throughout the day, like just taking a few breaths before they open their computer, or noticing how they feel when they're stuck in a traffic jam, let go of the tension, taking some breaths. There's also, something called STOP, where the acronym is, to stop what you're doing, take a breath. The O is for observe how you're feeling. What are your emotions like? What does your body feel like? Um, and then proceed with awareness. So we want to, and that can take 30 seconds. And so I found that, um, and I always want people to feel like meditation shouldn't be a goal. Like I gotta get to the meditation seat, my meditation seat. And if I don't, I'm failing somehow. I'm lacking. Meditate. You don't want meditation to turn into one more thing that you have to do. You don't have time, so you beat yourself up for it. You want it to be, I tell my students, set aside a spot in your home. It could be a chair in your room, or it could be a pillow on the floor. It doesn't have to be a whole room, and it's there. That's your meditation spot. You might even want to put something there, like a picture of somebody, or something that just means something to you. And you might go past it every day for months or years and go, okay, that's my meditation spot. Um, the idea is, at some point, can you sit there and even for, 2 minutes, and then eventually 5 minutes and 10 minutes, and then life takes over and you don't sit there again for a long time. But can we still be kind to ourselves about it? Like, okay, I have that tool. I'm going to use it. It's just not going to happen right now. And so, you know, Sharon Salzberg, a meditation teacher, says we don't meditate to get better at meditating. We meditate to find more joy in our lives. And so we have to be careful that meditation doesn't become another should or another to-do list, that it's there. You know, we learn how to do it. We learn what works for us, and we get help with it, in the sense that I tell my students, get on an app that you like, find somebody online, like you found a yoga teacher. It's hard to just sit down and do it on your own. So, taking these sort of baby steps of getting on the cushion, but also starting with your daily mindful practices, a couple times a day.
Yep. I think that one thing you mentioned that I recommend to everybody is that you should download some meditation. Like YouTube is great for that. On my media center and my phone, I have a couple different meditations. Some might be 30 seconds, some might be a minute, some might be 5 minutes. I truly have never listened to a 30-minute meditation just because I don't have that kind of time. Or I don't make the kind of time. I do have that time, let's be honest. But I usually, when I think about it, it's as I am trying to ground myself before an important meeting. If I have a big project that I need to get done and I need to really focus, it's a way for me to ground myself before I attempt to do something, because then I know that I'm starting in the best mental and physical state that I can to be effective at whatever it is that I have in front of me. The other thing that I think is important that you also said is my husband laughs at me because I've had a meditation corner in our bedroom for years. And and in there are things that I associate with calmness. I have a beautiful space there, and though I've given up the idea I'm going to sit there and meditate, I will say that when I walk by it, when I look at it, it reminds me as a visual cue that that is something I have inside of me, and I can enact it when I need to. And so that leads me to two questions in particular for you, Lisa. Number one, what is body scan? You mentioned that. I don't know exactly what it is. I think it reminds me of a progressive muscle relaxation, which is something we teach with anxiety and cognitive behavioral techniques. But I want you to explain what that is. And I also want, and this is just a personal request, is I think many of us, and this is very similar with anxiety, is that we don't we're not monitoring our bodies and our anxiety level, and unfortunately we go from 0 to 60 when everything that we know teaches us that we should be scanning or we should be monitoring ourselves, so that anxiety is something that accelerates exponentially. And so you should be looking at, okay, where are you, now versus, so okay, I'm at a 2 out of 10 now. When you get to 5 out of 10, you really need to start bringing in your toolkit to start to reduce that anxiety, because you can't wait till 8 or 9, because by the time you hit 7, you're going to be at 10 in the next, X amount of time very quickly. And so I think that one of the things that we need to teach our listeners is how do they know when they need to bring in those daily tips that you're talking about that are short increments of time. And then if you could also talk about what body scanning is.
Yeah, those are great questions. Thank you. Um, Well, the body scan is a meditation involving, you're scanning your body for pain, tension, or anything out of the ordinary. And a lot of different teachers teach body scans. You might come across body scans that are more relaxation, where we relax the feet or let the legs get heavy. But in the true sense, I would say a body scan is really to get in body, to notice how it feels to be in your feet, to notice how it feels to, have your legs resting in this moment. Like, so it's really kind of uh, a deep dive into the body. And you notice like things come up. You might be sitting there and it's like, okay, I'm noticing my belly right now. And you might have tension in there. You might have pain in there. Okay, what's that about? It's not like you're going to get things answered, but you're going to become aware, and our bodies can give us a lot of information. Um, and so, I recommend doing it. It can help you feel more connected to your physical and emotional self by doing a body scan. Um, it, and it's something, like I said, I would say that find somebody who is online that you like their voice, and try a few different body scans. But there is a lot of information in our bodies. I mean, you think about it, when we are stressed and anxious, our breath is really short. It's usually up in our chest, right? We don't necessarily know that because we're in it, but our breathing can be really, fast and difficult. But if we notice that, we can sort of downregulate that a bit and take some deeper breaths, or I always like when I'm driving and I kind of pause when you know, I'm in a hurry and there's traffic. I pause, take a breath, and I'll notice my body. And I'm like, oh, my shoulders are like up to my ears right now. I am clutching the wheel so tight. I can bring those down. So, so there's body scan meditations, and they teach us to really be with the sensations in our body, and to notice, like I said, tension, emotional, emotions that are in the body, pain, discomfort, and how can we be with that? And then, I think that's such a good question on, when you said if your anxiety or you're feeling a certain way and you're like a 2 out of a 10 versus what happens when you get to be all the way up to an 8 out of a 10. And I always tell people when we're in the thick of, like, whether it's discomfort, anxiety, pain, whatever it is, when we're in the thick of that, that's going to be hard for us to say, oh, I'm going to go use my toolbox that I live in right now. It's like we've already fallen in the hole and now we're panicked. So I would say what I encourage my students to do is practice something every day, even if it's just 30 seconds to a minute. Do the stop practice. Pause, feel your feet into the floor. Take a moment, look out the window, notice the trees or birds or whatever you're seeing in your area. So, these little short mindful things. Also, I encourage people, it's like the first homework assignment in my intro classes the next week. I want you to pick one thing you're going to be mindful about and be mindful about it. So I used to always say, wash your hands. And then during COVID, it was like, how we had to wash our hands for 20 seconds. But honestly, you're washing your hands. Notice your senses, like notice how the water feels, notice the temperature, notice the smell of the soap. How does it feel to rub your hands together? Pay attention fully in the moment to one activity. And that takes 20 seconds. It could be pouring your coffee, whatever it is. Pick something to be mindful of. And then when things get difficult, when you find yourself creeping into that, anxiety is going way up, then you perhaps, as you practice it when you're not anxious, it will come back to you when you are, or you've already, decided, or you've already noticed, and you're going to start to take some breaths, do the stop practice, sit and feel your feet into the floor. Take a few long breaths, inhaling to receive. I always say exhaling to release. So sometimes when we're going into those places, we've had, we've had some reminders, right? We've been already practicing this that we can bring in. And if you're already in it, sometimes it takes a little time. There's times when I get some news or something happens, I'm like, boom, I'm right down there. And sometimes it means I have to go over and over it in my mind. I have to call people and talk to them. And then all of a sudden I'll be like, okay, now I'm ready to sit with this. Now I'm ready to deal, to be present with this situation and notice how it feels in my body. What can I do to help myself?
All I wanted to say too is that one thing I've learned over the years is that there is different forms of meditation for what for the individual to identify what works for them. I happened to go to a yoga studio where it was a silent retreat for 6 or 8 hours. And during the retreat, they showed you just got to dabble in a different modality of it. So we did a walking meditation, we did, gong and sound meditation, we did aromatherapy and what that could bring to you. We also did mindful eating during lunch and really experiencing food and understanding the taste and texture of it in your mouth. And a lot of people, talk about that with eating nutritious food or eating healthier, things like that. So there's a lot of different forms of meditation outside of sitting on a cushion for 20 or 30 minutes. I actually, walking from my car to the front door of our office, I do a walking meditation. It's the same parking lot, but I found that as you key into that, I hear the birds singing. And especially in the wintertime, usually they're only cardinals, right? But the way that they welcome me to go to the office and the way I see them and I enjoy them and they bring me joy. And so I think that there's different ways to do that. I think eating mindfully is the most challenging for me because I feel like I just scoop food into my mouth because I don't have time to eat. And so, which is really not good for anybody. And so, I mean, I think there's different ways. And I think each individual needs to find the method that is most beneficial to them. If you're an outdoor person and you like to move, sitting on a cushion is probably not your go-to, but hiking and doing a walking meditation or a hiking meditation, really taking in some of the most sacred spaces I've been and where I have felt most close to what I call my higher power is in nature. And so I would have never found that experience or that just unbridled joy and vulnerability sitting on a cushion anywhere, but just at the end of a walk, getting to a very beautiful space that really felt something for to me. That was the openness and vulnerability I've never been able to find anywhere else. And that's okay. You don't have, there's no predetermined space for anybody. You have to go figure out what works for you and don't try to force yourself into a box because that box, there is no box. You have to find out what it is. Because until you find it, you won't get the motivation to try it again. You have to find something that's simple, that's meaningful, and that's genuinely authentic for who you are as a person. And so before we head off, I can't believe we're almost at 40 minutes. And so I don't want to, I could talk to you forever, Lisa, because I think it's such a topic that I'm interested in. But I do want to give an opportunity to learn what your women's circles are and how our listeners can find you if they want to follow up with you.
Yeah, thank you, Joji. They can go to my website, which is my first name, Lisa, last name, Sparagna.com. And
Can you spell that for us just for our listeners?
absolutely. Yeah. So first name is Lisa and the last name is Sparagna.com. And you can send me an email via that website. You can also see my classes. Um, I've been teaching a Monday night 30-minute meditation class for probably 4 or 5 years. And it's a very easy type of meditation in the sense it's only 30 minutes. We do a quick check-in if you want to. You can also pass. We meditate and then basically hang up the phone. There's no cameras on. It's just audio, and I make it very affordable. And it's every Monday night. And then I also do a Tuesday morning local time here, 10 a.m. And I've just started a new class, reading, self compassion, meditations on the heart. That's Wednesday evenings um, from 6:30 to 7:30. And I hope to keep that class going after this 6-week series. And then my women's circle, really, my women's circles meet once a month. I have one group right now, and I have been in a women's circle myself for probably 15 years. And so the women's circle is about truth telling, it's about witnessing and experiencing healthy transformation. It's a place where women can go to be seen and heard. And it's not a place that you go to get fixed or to get advice. Um, Now, obviously, if you're in a circle and you bring a situation to the circle and you need some help, you ask for that. But we are not there to fix each other because we're not broken. And we're not there to tell each other how to do it better. We're there to mindfully listen, mindfully speak. I offer a prompt every month, and you're welcome to explore that prompt and come into the group with it, or you can just come in and talk about what's on your mind. It's a space to be in, a safe space, a sacred space, and you don't have to look or act or be a certain way. When people were like, "Well, I'm such a mess over the situation," I said, "Well, then come to the women's circle. Don't. That's the time you want to come." So there's a lot to it, and if you're interested, that's also on my website. I'm happy to talk to you about it. And any of my classes, I'm always open to offer people like a free trial. They can come to class and see how they like it. I also do private yoga and private meditation and mindfulness. Like I said, I've worked with so many different people, and right now I'm working um, with a mother and her child who has ADHD. I'm working with a younger gentleman who wants to go deeper in his yoga practice. I mean, there's just so many different places. I have my group on tomorrow, Monday, for the cancer center. So there's lots of different people and walks of life that served, and I'm looking forward to always talking to more people and meeting them where they are, and in the highest good of where they are as well. So um, I think I think that's all. Like I think that's all I'm doing right now. But like I said, you can reach me on my website, lisasparagna.com, and send me an email, and I can get you on my email list. I don't send a lot of emails every month, Joji. You probably saw that. I think typically once a month, and then if I'm offering something, I might bombard you a little bit, but I don't send a lot. So, but I'd love to talk to you and see where you are in your journey and where I can help you.
Absolutely. And are the women's circles done virtually or are they in person?
Yeah, the women's circles, they used to be in person, which I love, but we are now virtual, and we have people from San Francisco, Arizona, Chicago area. And so I've kept it open now for people to come in from all over.
The reason why I asked is I would love to have a deconstructed woman circle. And I'm wondering if there's any interest in doing that. So I'm throwing that out to our listeners that we would be happy to create a circle for our podcast. We could try it out once and see if we like it. And I think it's a great idea. And I think it could become an extension of the podcast because there are so many people that reach out to me that tell me how much they appreciate this podcast, but actually a space to be able to connect with each other and do some work together, I think is an extraordinary opportunity. So more to come on that. Let me chew on that and see what the listeners give us and see if there's any interest in doing that. And then we can figure that out as we go. Um, as we said before, Alyssa was unable to join us today because of her voice, and so she will be actually talking to Lisa separately about self-regulation when it comes to parenting. It's something that she's brought up here and shared with us that it's stressful to her to know that her interactions with her children after work can be negative and self-harming to her as a mom and potentially have lasting impressions on her children. And so Lisa and Alyssa are going to talk more about that and how parents can regulate their emotions so that their interactions with their children in the limited time we have with them when we're working moms is also sacred and meaningful and something that we can be proud of. So, more to come on that. That'll probably be the next session as a part two to this conversation with Lisa about these wonderful techniques that she's an expert in. I want to thank Lisa for her time and her openness to joining us today. And as we always close out, please reach out to us. Let us know how much you like this session, or if you're also interested in a women's circle, particularly to this conversation. And you can reach us at thedeconstructedwoman@gmail.com or on our website by the same name, as well as on our Facebook page, which is the Deconstructed Woman Community page. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Lisa, for taking the time again. And we hope to drive up your business because we know that this is an area that needs a lot of attention. And we as women need to take care of ourselves so we can take care of everyone else. And with that, I'm going to be signing off and talk to you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to our podcast, The Deconstructed Woman. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends, rate this episode, or subscribe to be notified of all new content. We want to hear from you, our listener. Do you have thoughts on the discussions we're having? Want to share topic suggestions? Or want to join us for a topic that you're passionate about? Contact us at our email address, thedeconstructedwoman@gmail.com.